The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Wells Report. What do we do here? Well, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We analyze the news, as I said, and we also make commentary. That is not news. Commentary is opinion, yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. It is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Time now for the front page for Thursday, August 24th, 2023. The GOP debate leading the news everywhere possibly in the entire world. The Republican candidate sparred over Trump, the war in Ukraine, and abortion. And this is how USA Today sees it. 8 Republican presidential candidates battled Wednesday over Ukraine, abortion, and the January 6th Capitol riot as they gathered in Milwaukee for the first primary debate of the 2024 presidential election cycle. With frontrunner Donald Trump absent, Vivek Ramaswamy took a lot of heat. Mike Pence called him a rookie. Chris Christie attacked him as an amateur. Ramaswamy said his business background was a better asset to lead a revolution, that is a quote, and pitched himself as someone who could offer a new generation of leadership. Nikki Haley ripped into Ramaswamy for saying the United States should cede eastern Ukraine to Putin. Quote, "You have no foreign policy experience, and it shows," unquote. Trump's name finally came up about an hour into the debate. The candidates were asked, would you support Trump if he is convicted? Most candidates raised their hand. By the way, Christie raised an objection. Mike Pence got back up on the issue that he has been the biggest weight on his candidacy, or what was the biggest weight on his candidacy, his refusal to interfere in the congressional counting of electoral college votes on January 6th, 2021, as President Trump is purported to have wanted. Most of the GOP candidates said they would still support Trump even if he is convicted of crimes and still wins the Republican nomination. They also said GOP voters are tiring of all the drama surrounding the former president. Quote, "We have to face the fact that Trump is the most disliked politician in America," unquote. That was from South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. "We can't win a general election that way." 2 GOP candidates, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, again said that Trump's indictments disqualify him from leadership of the party or the nation. Quote, "Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct," unquote, said Christie, drawing boos from the crowd at a sports arena in downtown Milwaukee. DeSantis, who is second to Trump in many polls, emerged from the debate relatively unscathed, but had no memorable quotes. This according to USA Today. DeSantis was joined by South Carolina Senators Tim Scott and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. They used the debate to promote their own platforms. For his part, President Trump interviewed with Carlson on X. Donald Trump skipped the debate stage typically relished by presidential candidates yesterday and instead appeared in an online interview peppered with his election lies, attacks on rivals, and lavish praise for the crowd of supporters he spoke to before they stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. This biased report from Associated Press. Trump, who has repeatedly brushed aside democratic norms and embraced the inflammatory throughout his political career, said he was sitting out the first Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee because his poll numbers showed him far ahead of his rivals. Instead, he used a pre-recorded interview with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson to make his case that everyone but him is irrelevant. In the most inflammatory exchange, Trump seemed to indulge a suggestion from Carlson that Trump's political opponents might try to end his life. Quote, "They are savage animals," unquote. "They are people who are sick, really sick. You have great people in the Democrat Party. You also have great people that are Democrats. But I've seen what they do. I've seen the lengths that they go to. The interview with Carlson was posted last night on X, the website formerly known as Twitter, 5 minutes before the debate aired. Trump attacked some of his rivals early, calling former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson nasty, cited him as an example of someone who should not be on the debate stage, along with former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Both Christie and Hutchinson have been critical of Trump and said that he should not be running for president. Trump said that it is beneath him to appear with other candidates on the Milwaukee debate stage because of his large lead in the polls. His ongoing feud with Fox News Channel, which hosted the debate, also seemed to cement his decision. Quote, do I sit here for an hour or two, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that on a network that is not particularly friendly to me? Unquote. If you'd like to see the Carlson interview, the former president sat down with Tucker Carlson. It can be seen on X. All you have to do is go to X, search Tucker Carlson, then look for episode number 19. News from the states today. California, 3 were killed and 2 are in critical condition after a bike bar shootout. This from CNN. At least 3 people have been fatally shot, 6 others injured at a beloved Southern California biker bar, according to authorities, in the latest of more than 460 mass shootings this year in the United States. The attacker, believed to be a retired law enforcement officer, was killed at the scene after gunfire exploded around 7 p.m. Wednesday at Cook's Corner, Orange County Under Sheriff Jeff Halleck said. It's an absolute tragic event, something that I know is probably weighing very heavy on the hearts of the entire Trabuco Canyon community. It's a staple here, talking about Cook's Corner, the biker bar. Out of Idaho, the trial for college killing suspect Bryan Kohberger has been delayed indefinitely. The capital murder trial for Kohberger, the man accused of killing 4 Idaho college students last fall, will be delayed indefinitely. Kohberger's trial had been set to begin October 2nd, less than 6 weeks away. ABC News continues with its report that the trial will be postponed after he waived his right to a speedy trial. That's Kohberger. In court yesterday afternoon, the judge accepted his waiver. Kohberger defense attorney Ann Taylor said more time was needed to effectively present their case that would be possible by October 2nd. Washington State. Seattle will try alternative response teams for 9/11 responses. 911 calls in Seattle could soon be answered by unarmed crisis responders instead of police officers through a new alternate response team. Councilwoman Lisa Haybold made the announcement on Friday. They're beginning to hire the first new 6 positions for a pilot program to provide for unarmed crisis responders to respond to certain emergency calls. Quote, well, I'm usually complaining about how delayed we are and how frustrated I am. We're not meeting our benchmarks for developing this program, unquote. But today, she goes on, I'm really, really happy to report the city is hiring for the first 6 positions for its pilot alternative response team. It's going to be a way for 911 operators to dispatch calls to somebody other than police, somebody other than fire, a crisis responder who is unarmed, said Herbold. Out of Ohio, a school bus crash left 1 student dead, at least 23 hurt on the first day of school. This from Fox News. A school bus in Ohio loaded with dozens of elementary school students on their way to the first day of classes crashed along a roadway. This happened Tuesday morning when a minivan sideswiped the bus. It killed 1 child, injuring at least 23 others, according to authorities. The bus had 52 students on board as it made its route northeast of Dayton around 8:16 a.m. This, according to Sergeant Tyler Ross of the Ohio Highway Patrol, telling reporters. At that time, Ross said a Honda Odyssey veered from the left lanes of Ohio State Route 41 into the side of the school bus, whose driver tried to avoid the minivan. 1 child was killed at the crash after being ejected from the bus as it rolled over. Out of Georgia today, Fox News reports a federal district court judge turned down requests from 2 co-defendants in the Georgia racketeering case involving former President Trump to transfer jurisdiction of their cases to federal court. Judge Steve Jones of the Northern District of Georgia issued two simultaneous orders yesterday denying the request from former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and former Department of Justice Civil Division Chief Jeff Clark. Meadows and Clark requested in their motions their cases be transferred and for the court to allow them to avoid arrest in the case. Quote, "Nothing Mr. Meadows is alleged in the indictment to have done is criminal per se, arranging Oval Office meetings, contacting state officials on the president's behalf, visiting a state government building, and setting up a phone call for the president," counsel for Mike Meadows wrote in a court motion filed August 15th. "One would expect a chief of staff to the president of the United States to do these sorts of things," unquote. Another quote, Mr. Clark asked the court to either grant a stay or temporary restraining order against Fulton County or to grant an administrative stay, as we have described below. This was counsel for Clark in a motion August 21st. If the court grants a stay, Mr. Clark would not need to be put in the choice of making a rushed travel arrangement to fly to Atlanta, or instead risking being labeled a fugitive. However, Judge Jones denied the request, stating that in the Meadows order that the clear statutory language for removing a criminal prosecution does not support an injunction or temporary stay prohibiting Georgia's enforcement or execution of arrest warrants against Meadows, President Trump's former chief of staff. In Florida, a teen was arrested for bringing a gun to class on the first day of school. This from Newsmax. Students in one Florida high school spent their first day in lockdown after police received an anonymous tip that a 15-year-old had brought a gun to school. This according to the Messenger News. The teen from North Lauderdale was arrested around 1:15 p.m. Monday at Coconut Creek School after the gun was found in his backpack, according to police. The 9mm Glock was loaded, had been shown to other students who informed school security about the incident. This, according to police, telling NBC 6 News. The 15-year-old now faces charges of carrying a concealed weapon, possession of a firearm by someone under 18, and causing a school lockdown. In international news today, from USA Today, Evgeny Prigozhin, an ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin until launching a failed insurrection with his Wagner Group mercenaries in June, was aboard the private jet that crashed yesterday northwest of Moscow. This according to Russian aviation agency Rosaviasta. All 10 people aboard the flight from Moscow to St. Petersburg, 7 passengers and 3 crew members were killed when the plane came down about 185 miles from the capital. This according to officials cited by Russia's state-run news agency TASS. Prigozhin, 62, was listed as a passenger. It was initially unclear whether he was aboard the flight, which went down in a field in the Tver region. A Telegram post in the Wagner-linked Gray Zone channel said Prigozhin died as a result of actions of traitors to Russia. Fox News reports that Russian villagers who witnessed the crash of Wagner chief Evgeny Prigozhin's jet said they heard an explosion before seeing the plane plummet out of the sky. And finally, out of Japan, ABC News reports that Japan is beginning a decades-long process of releasing treated wastewater from the 2011 Fukushima nuclear power plant meltdown into the Pacific Ocean. This will begin today. The decision, the latest in a long process of cleaning up one of history's worst nuclear accidents, has faced significant opposition. Concerns range from environmental risks to impacts on fishing. The discharge process is projected to last for decades, perhaps as many as 40 years. That's the front page for this Thursday, October 24th. We'll have complete coverage coming up next on the Wells Report. And good morning, I am John David Wells. Thank you very much for joining us. We have complete coverage of the GOP debate this morning, and we'll get to that coming up in just a couple of moments. Again, my thanks for being here. Back with more in just a moment.
IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. It is Thursday, August 24th, year of our Lord 2023. My name is John David Wells. Before we get into the nuts and bolts and the actual specifics regarding the GOP debate of last night, let me give you kind of an overview of what I saw. What I saw was a food fight, for want of better words, for the first half of the debate. I thought that the Republican candidates made fools of themselves. I thought they were all over-animated, and that might be because this was a high-stakes event, and there were a lot of things on the line for a lot of those candidates. I was very pleased when they finally got down to business and actually started acting like professionals. When they finally got... okay, I'm sorry. Let me come over here. Thank you. Anyway, thanks, Dirk. Anyway, what I wanted to tell you is that once they got down to business, the debate sort of steadied out. I thought the moderation was very, very good, but the candidates themselves kind of sullied their first impressions to the American people based on the fact that they wanted to yell at each other. And I thought that was absolutely idiotic. Former President Ronald Reagan used to say that there was an 11th commandment: thou shalt not speak ill of thy fellow Republican candidates. I wish they had remembered that before they took the stage. The moderators, that was Brett Baer and Martha, shoot, I keep forgetting her name, McCollum. They both did a very good job, although I thought the split of the predicate for the question and then asking the question as they went back and forth, I thought that was unnecessary. They should have just switched from question to question. That would have been much smoother. Howie Kurtz talks an awful lot about the debate. He is the media analyst for Fox News, the only media analysis show on cable television. He had some great words regarding that debate that we'll get to a little bit later on. What I would like to say is this: there comes a time when you watch the stylings of President Trump and you say, did he really think about that ahead of time? I'm pretty sure that that's not the case here, but as it turns out, to my eye, skipping this first debate was a very good move on the part of President Trump, because President Trump would have been exactly what he said in his interview, and we'll report that coming up in just a little bit. He would have been a target on an unfriendly network, and it would have been even worse than it was. It was far below standard. I gave the entire debate a D. I did notice that as time went by, things got better. I suspect it's because the handlers in the back room, what Fox News calls the spin room, talked to their candidates and said, hey, cool it. And there's also something mechanical. This was brought up by Howie Kurtz, the media analyst from Fox News. You're not talking to the crowd in front of you on a television event like the first Fox News presidential debate of the 2024 election cycle. You're talking to the television audience. Yes, there are thousands of people in front of you, but you can't talk to them. Consequently, when you start talking to the crowd and you really can't hear yourself well, which is part and parcel of how things go in big arenas like that, you start yelling. And all the candidates were yelling. As I said, they were all over animated, and they did themselves no favors. I can assure you that Democrat watchers of the debate found themselves in a position where they're going, gosh, this is working out well. By the way, for the Democrats' part, it appears as though the Democrat National Committee has decided to name President Biden as the nominee for the party by acclamation. That was in a news article today. As I said, we'll bring you complete coverage of the entire layout. Most importantly, I would like you to tell me what you saw on the debate last night. Please use the telephone to do so, 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. You can join us on the chat room. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and of course, Patreon and Rumble. So join us. Make sure that you get your voices heard. 817-379-2172 is the telephone number once again. What did you see on last night's debate? We'll be back with more coming up in just a couple of moments as the Wells Report rolls on for this Thursday.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells, covering the GOP debate and President Trump's interview on X. All of these things coming to you on this broadcast. As we reported during the front page, 8 Republican presidential candidates battled last night over Ukraine, abortion, the January 6th Capitol riot, as they gathered in Milwaukee for the first primary debate. Vivek Ramaswamy got himself into the center of things very, very quickly, as a lot of the machine politicians that we have come to know as the essential worker bees of the American political machine immediately piled on. But before we get to some of those things, let's talk a little bit more about the It was just terrible. The argument, as I've always said on this broadcast, arguments are boring. And it was unprofessional at the beginning. This is a piece of video that you should see. It points out just exactly what I'm talking about. Listen carefully.
Tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that
the same
hug,
type of amateur.
Hold on. Governor Haley, would you like to respond? Are you bought and paid
what
for?
I would like to say is the fact that I think this is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
You can see that there was a lot of contentiousness in the particular debate that we're discussing, and this argument, the argument decorated the first half of the debate, and it was ridiculous. Candidates criticized Ramaswamy's lack of experience. The Republican entrepreneur said his business background was a better asset to lead a revolution. That's a word that he's used a lot, and it's concerning to me. He pitched himself as somebody who could offer a new generation of leadership. Nikki Haley then ripped into Ramaswamy for saying that the U.S. should cede eastern Ukraine to Putin. You have no foreign policy experience, and it shows. And so all of this turned out to be a let's snare Vivek Ramaswamy for not being part of the political machine. These were machine politicians attacking somebody outside the system. Trump's name finally came up about an hour into the debate. The candidates were asked, would you support Trump if he's convicted? Most said yes. Christie raised an objection. Mike Pence got back up for the issue that had been the biggest weight on his candidacy, his refusal to interfere in the congressional counting of Electoral College votes on January 6th. The 14-minute discussion, most of the candidates said they would still support Trump on that particular issue, even if he was convicted of crimes, etc. We have to face the fact that Trump is the most disliked politician in America. Two GOP candidates, Governor Chris Christie, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, said that Trump's indictments disqualify him for leadership on the stage. Most of the attacks went against businessman Vivek Ramaswamy, an upstart who has seen his poll numbers rise. Rivals like former Vice President Mike Pence hit Ramaswamy for a lack of government experience. DeSantis, who is second to Trump in many polls, emerged from the debate relatively unscathed, but according to USA Today, had no memorable quotes. I disagree. More about that in a moment. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum used the debate to promote their own platforms. Both of those guys did very, very well. Will they be able to capture enough traction to be able to move forward? We will see. When asked whether an elected president should pass a mental or physical test if above a certain age, Pence, who's 64, said Americans can make their own judgment. But he added the country doesn't need a president who's too old or a president who is too young. Rather, he said the country needs a president who has been there and knows how the government works. Vivek Ramaswamy, the youngest candidate on the debate stage, said there needs to be a person of a different generation leading the country forward. He's the only candidate to do that. By the way, I will say this. I have to be completely honest here. Vivek Ramaswamy probably missed a hanging curveball there. All you got to do is look at how the political machine in the United States has handled this government. Had he said something along the line of, even an amateur could do a better job than all of you people, he probably would have brought the house down. Maybe that's something that if anybody from the Ramaswamy camp is watching this broadcast, you could pass along to the candidate. That would be a good statement. Several of the Republican candidates showed support for eliminating the Department of Education. We need education in this country, not indoctrination in this country. Let's spend a little bit of time with Ron DeSantis. As I said, Ron DeSantis, or USA Today says, well, Ron DeSantis didn't have a memorable night. I actually do disagree with that. This, obviously from Fox News, should tell the story this morning.
Our country is in decline.
This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline. And it starts with understanding we must reverse Bidenomics so that middle-class families have a chance to succeed again. We cannot succeed as a country if you are working hard and you can't afford groceries, a car, or a new home, while Hunter Biden can make hundreds of thousands of dollars on lousy paintings. That is wrong. We also cannot succeed when the Congress spends trillions and trillions of dollars. Those rich men north of Richmond have put us in this situation. And finally, we need to lower your gas prices. We're going to open up all energy production. We will be energy dominant again in this country. I showed it could be done in the state of Florida. I pledge to you as your president, we will get the job done, and I will not let you down.
That was a great statement. That was simply a great statement. DeSantis was able to get most of his agenda items in there, and he made a pledge not to let Americans down. Chris Christie, for his part, was, as most people say, the bulldog that they expected him to be, and had a couple of moments, but also found himself in a position where he ran afoul of the viewing audience in the arena at the time. Check this out.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott.
Yeah, this was something that would come up a couple of different times. Even Christie mentioned that he would say, well, you know, in this country, what makes some of this country so good is the fact that people can boo when they want to. Well, that's trying to turn lemons into lemonade in my particular view, and so on. Mike Pence had a couple of moments here. Let's take a look at what Mike Pence had to say as he entered the fray on this particular debate last night.
Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head.
Well, look, I'm not new to this cause. After I gave my life to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I opened up the book and I read, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And see, I set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life." And I knew from that moment on, the cause of life had to be my cause. And I've been a champion for life in the Congress, a champion for life as governor and as vice president. And to be honest with you, Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. When the Supreme Court returned this question to the American people, they didn't just send it to the states only. It's not a states only issue, it's a moral issue. And I promise you, as President of the United States, the American people will have a champion for life in the Oval Office. Can't we have a minimum standard in every state in the nation that says when a baby is capable of feeling pain, an abortion cannot be allowed? A 15-week ban is an idea whose time has come. It's supported by 70% of the American people, but it's going to take unapologetic leadership that stands on principle and expresses compassion for women in crisis pregnancies. I'll do that as President of the United States.
Yeah, Mike Pence brought up a couple of things that I want to discuss here. First of all, he was extremely pious. There is a separation of church and state in this nation, not a separation of God and state in this nation. And Mike Pence trampled all over that particular standard. Also, this was the worst part of the debate when the Republican candidates were asked about the party position on abortion. They are not answering the question. They are not rising to the solution. They are continuing to cogitate over the same question that cannot be answered under these circumstances. The Republican Party could solve this problem, so could the Democrats if they wanted to, but they simply don't want to. What's happening here is that the Republican Party, every time it brings this up, starts trying to impose a federal top-down solution to a moral and individual choice. Americans do not want their government making individual choices for them. They simply do not. How do you handle the problem then? Here's how you handle the problem. You come up with a debate and you come up with an agreement regarding the beginning of life as a legal concept. We have a legal concept of the end of life. That is when your heart stops beating. What you need to do more than anything is you need to come up with a legal concept as to when life begins. You legislate it, you debate it, you pass it, and you put it in play in the United States. All of this goes away. And I cannot help but continue to bring up the point that the reason politics refuses to simply define the beginning of life in the United States, that they don't want to solve the problem. In other words, they'd rather drag this horrifying spectacle back and forth in front of the American people trying to make political points. It's one thing to declare your morality. It's quite another to impose your morality on law and the people who follow that law. The simple case of the matter is that they're going about this the wrong way, and it needs to stop. As far as the piety, I have no problem with someone's belief, faith in God, etc. But we're not trying to elect the Archbishop of the United States of America. We are trying to elect the President of the United States. When you have a government that tries to become, shall we say, extra human, in other words, travel beyond humanity for the sake of your politics, you make a mistake. You simply make a mistake. And it is not something that you can easily fix. As a matter of fact, as we know, as I just said, the political process in the United States refuses to fix this. Vivek Ramaswamy, on the other hand, is somebody who knows exactly what he wants to do and brings fresh eyes to the United States and certainly the presidential chase. This is what he had to say last night.
So look, we have a crisis of achievement. Let's shut down the head of the snake, the Department of Education. Take that $80 billion, put it in the hands of parents across this country. This is the civil rights issue of our time. Allow any parent to choose where they send their kids to school. End the teachers' unions at the local level to allow public schools to compete. And then revive our national identity where every high school senior should have to pass the same civics test that, frankly, every immigrant, including my mother, had to pass in order to become a citizen of this country. And the fact of the matter is, look, there's a part of education policy that also rests with the family. I didn't grow up in money, but you know the word privilege gets used a lot. Well, you know what? I did have the ultimate privilege of two parents in the house with a focus on educational achievement. And I want every kid to enjoy that. So part of the problem is we also have a federal government that pays single women more not to have a man in the house than to have a man in the house, contributing to an epidemic of fatherlessness. And I think that goes hand in glove with the education crisis as well, because we have to remember education starts with the family, and the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind.
The nuclear family is the greatest form of government known to mankind. That was the best answer of any candidate on the stage. And it came to that stage through a guy who was not a machine politician. It came to the stage. It came to the American consciousness from a guy who sees things a different way. As I said earlier, Vivek Ramaswamy needs to point out that even an amateur could do a better job than these machine politicians who have been essentially using we, the people of the United States and this nation, to further their own particular political delirium. It is something that must change. Is Vivek Ramaswamy somebody who can change it? Well, we'll see, won't we? Somebody asked me on Twitter or X last night. Somebody asked me who I thought I would vote for. Well, it's way too early. And first of all, my idea, since I do this job, really kind of drops out of the solution set. The American people are the only entity. The American people are the only entity in the United States who knows who the president of the United States should be. And that's what these elections are for. The Wells Report in progress for Thursday for you TGIF fans. Sure happy it's Thursday. Again, my sincere thanks for joining us today, and more of this broadcast continues next.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Nikki Haley stepped to the forefront in this debate last night. She is somebody that is a very good candidate. I like the way she talks. I thought the Margaret Thatcher quote where she said, if you want to hear someone say something about a given topic, ask a man. If you want somebody to do something about it, ask a woman. That from Margaret Thatcher from years and years ago. That was one of her best lines, but she did have very good moments on this stage. Let's take a look at another one.
Thing you want is for your child to have a better life than you did. And we can talk about all of these things, and there's a lot of crazy woke things happening in schools, but we've got to get these kids reading. If a child can't read by third grade, they're 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So we need to make sure we bring in reading remediation all over this country. We need transparency in the classroom because parents should never have to wonder what's being said or taught to their children in the classroom. Parents need to be deciding which schools their kids go to because they know best. And let's put vocational classes back into the high schools. Let's teach our kids to build things again. When we do that and we allow that innovation, that's when it'll get back. And yes, I will always say I'm going to fight for girls all day long because strong girls become strong women become strong leaders, and biological boys don't belong in the locker rooms of any of our girls.
Yeah, that was a great statement. It was very well done, and she is very focused. She was very focused last night, but she's focused as a human being in most cases, most of the time. As a matter of fact, I was saying that, and I really can't see her making a bad move. She's made some statements that I disagree with, but on the other hand, it's not something that that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is a very strong candidate for the presidency of the United States, albeit the fact that she is certainly part of the political machine. Someone outside of that to a degree, although he's a senator, is Tim Scott, who has messages that have been uplifting in this candidacy and in this election so far. He had his moments last night on the debate stage.
Here's what the American people deserve, is a debate about the issues that affect their lives. Going back and forth, being childish, is not helpful to the American people to decide on the next leader of our country. Number one, wait a second. Number two, as a kid who grew up in a single-parent household mired in poverty, I wondered, was the American dream real for kids who were devastated by poverty, devastated by the challenges of life? I came to the conclusion that America can do for anyone what she's done for me if we focus on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting America. If we want the environment to be better, and we all do, the best thing to do is to bring our jobs home from China. If we create 10 million new jobs in my Made in America plan, we will have a better economy and a better environment. Let me tell you why I say that, Brett. America.
Do it quickly.
America has cut. I'm a Southern boy, I talk slow. So America, that was quick. America has cut our carbon footprint in half in the last 25 years. The places where they are continuing to increase: Africa, 950 million people. India, over 1 billion. China, over 1 billion. Why would we put ourselves at a disadvantage, devastating our own economy? Let's bring our jobs home.
Yeah, that was an authentic moment from an authentic human being, albeit a machine politician. Tim Scott is an evocative candidate. He has a great way of communicating. He has a great way of commanding the room without being a jerk. This is something that Chris Christie does not possess. And I thought his very human response to the bells and the amount of time, et cetera. I think the debate format, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, I thought the debate format kind of hamstrung the actual debate. When you are in a situation where you are running a debate, and I have run countless debates, both on radio and in television, you really do have to understand that it's not about the moderation or the format of the discussion. It's actually about the candidates themselves. I was very happy that Bret Baier extended more time to Tim Scott and got away from that. I wish they had done that more often. By the way, Bret Baier got a couple of really good zingers trying to keep control of the debate, which was a free-for-all at the beginning. And I believe that, as I said, the candidates heard from their handlers saying, hey, stop being jerks to each other. And Bret Baier got a couple of really great zingers. If you have a chance to watch a replay of the debate, they are very well placed. They're very scattered. They are very few, and they are very, very good. So Tim Scott is a guy who believes in this nation from a perspective that is the product of many political stylings throughout the years, going back as far as the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Candidates brought up the fact that fatherless households are a major problem. Vivek Ramaswamy said that. He said that the greatest governance in the entire human existence is the nuclear family. And he is completely and totally correct. So, as I say, I bring this particular debate down to a few things. One, the Republican candidates in the first half looked like idiots, and that's going to haunt them. Two, the Fox News moderators did a very good job considering what they were handed by the candidates, although they did try to impose their formatting and their timetable just a little bit too heavily. I think that's something that they will learn and put into place for the next debate, which happens at the Ronald Reagan Library in Escondido, not in Escondido, but in California. No, it is in Escondido, sorry. So what we have is we have a debate, a little rough, but it got the ball rolling for this 2024 presidential campaign season. What did the mainstream media have to say? What were their takeaways? We will certainly get to those in just a couple of moments. Thanks for joining us. Back with more next hour.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Do you own a timeshare? At first, maybe it seemed like a great investment, but then you realized a lot of the promises made to you were simply not true. A little later, you started receiving the monthly maintenance fees and additional associated bills they failed to mention when you signed the agreement. And now their fees keep rising. Your times to actually use the timeshare keep shrinking, and the resort has no interest in letting you out of the agreement. Your vacation dream has turned into a timeshare nightmare, an overwhelming, never-ending financial obligation that will fall on your children after you're gone. And it seems as if there is no way out. Well, here's some great news. There is a way out. The Timeshare Exit Hotline has helped hundreds of people just like you, desperate people who thought they were stuck in this burden forever. Although most professionals in the timeshare industry are legitimate, there are those that use aggressive, sometimes even misleading sales tactics to try and trick innocent people into signing their lives away. We've heard many stories of people who have been lied to and others who were kept in a room for over 10 hours, not provided water or anything to eat, pressured until they were exhausted. These people finally signed a contract just to get out of there. If you're one of the unfortunate people who have been roped into a timeshare nightmare and feel there is no way out, call the number on your screen right now. When we take your case, it means we are highly confident that we can win. We'll provide you with an affordable, one-time fixed fee and our 100% client satisfaction guarantee. Now you don't have to face arrogant, aggressive salespeople alone. We're experts in consumer protection, real estate, and contract law. Even if they bullied you into an agreement, rest assured they're not going to bully us. So don't wait. Call us right now. Even if you've tried another company that failed you, call us. Our track record of successful negotiations speaks for itself. The call is free, the information is free, and there is absolutely no obligation. A single phone call could free you of this burden. So don't wait. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline right now. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. What do we do here? We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. In short, we depropagandize the mainstream media. We make commentary. That is not news. Commentary is opinion, yours and mine. And so we debate. What did you see in last night's debate? What did you see? What stuck in your mind as these candidates started the 2024 presidential campaign? Call us, 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. Operator, me, is standing by. Other people have weighed in on exactly what happened last night. We start with CNN. Donald Trump skipped the first Republican primary debate. 8 of his primary rivals did not. Vivek Ramaswamy, the 38-year-old entrepreneur and first-time candidate, was alongside Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at the center of the stage. He was the central figure for much of the night. Ramaswamy clashed with former Vice President Mike Pence over experience, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, and former ambassador of the United States to the United Nations. They clashed over foreign policy. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie clashed over so many different things. He was just a machine politician trying to take out a rookie. And I think he damaged himself beyond repair there. I wouldn't expect Chris Christie to stay along for much of it. Now, Ramaswamy, as a defender of Trump, was at times a stand-in for the former president who momentarily ceded the stage, but will take it back Thursday when he turns himself into the Fulton County Jail in Georgia as he faces election subversion charges. This is bias on the part of CNN. They're just throwing that in there because they want to make sure that you know that President Trump is going to turn himself in tomorrow in Georgia on something completely unrelated to the debate. That is simple journalistic malpractice. For all the fireworks in the 2-hour showdown, the debate had the feel of an undercard. Trump has retained his massive lead in the poll despite legal woes. Nothing that happened last night is likely to turn the race on its head. Meanwhile, North Dakota, I keep calling it North Carolina because I was raised there. It's North Dakota. He is a Governor, Doug Burgum. The most significant development was that he was able to participate in the debate at all. Burgum was taken to a Milwaukee emergency room. This happened Tuesday after suffering a high-grade tear of his Achilles tendon. That guy has some sand. It's tough when you blow up any part of that particular part of your body, the lower leg. Man, that is an all-day cookie. I have only pulled one muscle in my life. It was my left calf. And let me tell you something, that was 6 weeks of misery. I was very proud that he was able to stand there and do so well for a guy who was taking part in his first national debate. Doug Burgum did a great job last night. Will it be enough to fire up his candidacy? Probably not. But he did acquit himself very, very well. The debate played out in front of a rowdy crowd of about 4,000 people at the Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. The crowd's reactions, including jeers and boos when candidates criticized Trump at times, drowned out the Fox News moderators. 7 takeaways from CNN. the candidates went after Ramaswamy. That was interesting. Most people thought that as the leader on stage, from a polling standpoint, that DeSantis would be the target. No, it was Ramaswamy. And that's why I immediately reported to you that the machine politicians clumped against Ramaswamy. Tim Scott, the target of most of the debate participants was not DeSantis or South Carolina Senator Tim Scott or any candidate who has ever held elected office. Like I told you, the machine ganged up on Ramaswamy. It was the political newcomer. The first jab at the Ohio entrepreneur came from Pence. Quote, Vivek, you recently said a president can't do anything. Well, I've got news for you, Vivek. I've been in the hallway. I've been in the West Wing. The president of the United States has to confront every crisis facing America. That spurred a heated back and forth and light name-calling between the two candidates. Later in the first bit of the debate, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie compared Ramaswamy's answers to something cranked out by ChatGPT. Christie then capitalized on Ramaswamy's rhetorically asking what a little-known guy with a funny name was doing on the debate stage by pointing out that the quip sounded an awful lot like Barack Obama's old stump line about being a skinny kid with a funny name who believes America has a place for him. At another point, Pence went after Ramaswamy when the entrepreneur said, we're in the middle of a national identity crisis. Pence said, we don't have an identity crisis, Vivek. We are not looking for a new national identity. I would dare say, under these circumstances, that the identity of the United States has been warped by the very political machine that Mike Pence is a part of. That in the media, as we are going through the media's response to all of this, speaks for itself, in my view. The pile-on aimed at Ramaswamy was surprising. He's new to politics. At the same time, recent polling has shown him rising over other candidates who have spent, in some cases, decades in electoral politics. For Ramaswamy's opponents, this was about scuttling any momentum he is having. I absolutely assure you that Vivek Ramaswamy is coming out of this debate very, very well. DeSantis, according to CNN, did not stand out. DeSantis set the expectation he would be the focal point of the debate. He was not. He certainly didn't speak the most, though his campaign suggested his Republican opponents would have their knives out for DeSantis. He wasn't on the receiving end of many attacks. At a key moment when the candidates were asked to raise their hands if they would support Trump if he's convicted in a court of law, DeSantis peeked around the stage to see how everybody else had responded before he half-heartedly put up his right palm. Well, that was a typical politician's move. He wasn't the only one that did that, by the way. DeSantis, who earned the center stage spot, appeared content to exit Milwaukee without risking his second-place standing in the polls. But according to CNN, he did little to erase the impression confirmed by polling that he is closer to the rest of the pack than in a tier with Trump or in one of his own. Christie did not have a breakout moment, according to CNN. In fact, if you ask me, he had directly the opposite. Chris Christie came across as an arrogant snot. That's the way I saw him. Although he did have one good moment when he was asked the UFO question. He goes, I get the UFO question. That was very good. If he'd spent more time being that Chris Christie, he probably would have had a better night last night. By the way, Christie did indeed go after Ramaswamy in reminiscent of how he absolutely disassembled Marco Rubio in the debate before the New Hampshire primary, pointing out the Florida senator's habit of repeating lines. He had a personal structure. He would make a statement, and then he would make a political statement after the policy. And Christie jumped all over him on it. See, he did it again. And that was the end of Marco Rubio as a candidate. Christie was ready to give Ramaswamy the same treatment, but while the Christie chat GTP line or GPT line was reminiscent of his past debate performance, he failed to trip up the Ohio businessman. Vivek Ramaswamy has got his talents and his policies and his statements in a very well-organized basket. That's simply the case. Asked if he would support the former president if he was convicted of a crime, Christie said the party needs to stop normalizing his conduct, and the crowd began to boo. You claim that Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance. It would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign was not based in vengeance and grievance against Trump, said Ramaswamy, coming right back and nailing the former New Jersey governor. Ahead of the debate, Doug Mayer, a senior advisor to Christie, told CNN the former New Jersey governor would turn anyone who defended Trump into Trump. But Christie's attempt to attack the former president's top defender on stage was met with vitriol from the crowd. Some candidates supported a 15-week federal abortion ban, and candidates drew their distinction. I've already said this. In my particular view, this was the lowest moment of the debate. It was where not just the candidates, but indeed the entire Republican Party verified everything that's said about the Republican Party having to do with this particular issue. Simple case of the matter is that the first political party that figures out that all they really need to do to put this issue aside is to define when life begins. It seems very simple to me, but in the case of many things that are, shall we say, a pivot in the human existence, it's a simple thing that is well communicated that changes the entire idea of how we live our lives. The first political party to do so, the first political party to actually solve the problem, will be doing this nation a huge, huge favor. CNN says that DeSantis tried but failed to duck the January 6th question after being pressed by Pence. Moderators asked DeSantis whether Pence was right to reject Trump's pressure campaign to overturn the 2020 presidential election. The Florida governor attempted to dodge, ignoring what he'd been asked, and complained about the weaponization of the federal government. Pence dug in, putting DeSantis on the spot. Quote, "The American people deserve to know whether everyone on this stage agrees that I kept my oath to the Constitution that day. There was no more important duty, so answer the question." Then DeSantis said, "Mike did his duty. I've got no beef with him." The moment illustrated how cautious the Florida governor was of alienating Trump's base. Christie mocked DeSantis' answer, calling it a pre-canned speech. Okay, Chris Christie, maybe if you pre-canned a few of your speeches, you'd have more success. Just saying that. That's just an opinion, although I didn't go over there because I don't want to make you dizzy going back and forth on the cameras. He said that Pence deserves not grudging credit. He deserves our thanks as Americans. Mike Pence did his job. All the candidates agreed that he did his job because he did. It was an impossible situation, and he did it. However, I do want to point something out. This is a little preview of what we're going to cover at the bottom of the hour with Donald Trump. Donald Trump made some statements regarding what Mike Pence should do, in his opinion. And everybody excoriated him for it and stomped all over him, et cetera, et cetera. But wasn't it fascinating that as soon as that was all over, they changed the rules to make sure that the vice president could not do what had been normally done under very grave circumstances, all the way back to Thomas Jefferson regarding the same topic. They changed the rules. And Trump says, "See, I was right." You've got to see that interview. Make sure you do that. I'll tell you how you can do that in just a couple of moments. Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor and U.S. ambassador to the United Nations under Trump, brought onto the stage a message that was geared more directly for the general electorate than those of her rivals. She balked at federal abortion ban, saying that the reality of the Senate's 60-vote threshold to break the filibuster and the need for a House majority means consensus is necessary on the issue. She also said contraception should be available for all women, and that's certainly the case. She was one of the few candidates to acknowledge that climate change is real. She was first to criticize Trump by name, pointing to rising spending during his presidency. He praised Pence's actions on January 6th, despite Trump's pressure on the former vice president to seek to overturn the election in a biased statement by CNN. Scott stuck to what CNN calls as his nice guy routine. The plan for Scott going into the debate was to stick with his kill him with kindness attitude. For the first part of the debate, he did that. The problem was that the approach kept him out of most of the exchanges, which was a good thing. That's why he said the juvenile back and forth and argument and foolishness was actually destroying the debate. He was completely correct. Tim Scott was in charge of that stage. He commanded his colleagues and the audience. Tim Scott did very, very well in all of that. That's CNN's perspective. My name is John David Wells. We are bringing you all of the coverage from the GOP debate. There was a startling plane crash yesterday. It cost the life of a man who had finally stood up against Vladimir Putin. We'll have that report coming up next. This is the
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. Thanks for joining us. Telephone number is 817-379-2172. Waiting for your comments about what you saw on the speech or the debate last night. So there was a crash last night, yesterday in fact, and the Wagner Group boss is now presumed dead after that plane crash. About 24 hours after the crash, the Kremlin nor Russian President Vladimir Putin have commented on the plane crash that presumably killed Evgeny Prigozhin. This 2 months after his aborted mutiny against the Russian military leadership. U.S. President Joe Biden suggested Putin may have been behind the crash. Quote, I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised, unquote. Ukrainian forces carried out to be what appeared to be one of Kiev's most complex and ambitious operations to date against Russian military facilities on the Crimean Peninsula, etc. Here's what the witnesses told Russian media after the crash. Several residents who live near the crash have been speaking to Russian media about what they saw. One man told RIA Novosti that he heard two bangs in the sky before the plane began to fall. A woman from the village of Kuzhenkino in the Tver region told RIA Novosti that about 7 p.m. on Wednesday, she heard the sound of an airplane near her house, located 300 meters, 984 feet from the place where the tail section of the Embraer jet is lying. There came like a bang, like a shot, then suddenly an explosion. I look up and I hear a sound above me. It was like pops, like several explosions. The planes began to swerve. Then a plume of smoke emerged. The plane began to descend, to dive. Ludmila Osipova, another Kuzhenkino resident, said she did not see the moment the plane hit the ground, but saw a black cloud of smoke after being told of the incident by her neighbor. Osipova said her neighbor called the ordeal terrifying, a loud bang. Then she saw Osipova's neighbor turn her head to look. The whole plane was in sparkles of fire. It all lit up. There was an amazing report from Fox News. Let's bring that to you now as we get more on this story.
Hoffman, former CIA station chief, and served in the former Soviet Union in that capacity. He's also spending 5 years in Moscow. He is also a Fox News contributor. Dan, good to have you here today. What's your reaction to all of this very dramatic events playing out in Russia today?
Yeah, I would say it's not entirely unexpected, and it's kind of the way that Vladimir Putin does things. Look, I think he allowed Prigozhin to roam free. It gave Prigozhin a false sense of security, all while Russia's FSB, that's their internal security service, the one that Vladimir Putin led in the late 1990s, was tracking Prigozhin as a sniper would. And when Prigozhin's plane took off, they had to file a manifest before they flew from Moscow to St. Petersburg. I think that Vladimir Putin saw that as the best opportunity to eliminate a man he had called a traitor during the mutiny. Putin could not allow Prigozhin to live after Prigozhin led that mutiny against the state. First and foremost, Vladimir Putin is messaging his own intelligence and security services. All of them need to know, especially the higher ups, that if they betray Vladimir Putin, they're going to pay the ultimate price.
There's no doubt about that. This was an assassination, pure and simple, in my view. Of course, there will be what is known in the West as plausible deniability. I don't expect that Vladimir Putin would say anything about that insofar as he doesn't need to. The event itself does all the communication required. If you cross Vladimir Putin, you are going to be thalliumed. You are going to be ricin. You are going to be Novicheked. You are going to be plane crashed. And that has happened so many times that any kind of allusion to the contrary can be quite fatal. This is how totalitarian governments keep their people in line. Fortunately, here in the United States, we don't have to worry about the government killing people because they disagree politically. This is the Wells Report. I will have more on this broadcast, including a run-through of what Donald Trump said. That is coming up next.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA. The only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. It's what we do here. Thanks for joining us. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. A big news night last night. The beginning of the presidential campaign of 2024 in reality, as the candidates for the GOP stood on stage and told us what they thought. What did you think about what they thought? 817-379-2172. Part of that debate involved former President Donald Trump. It was put front and center by Fox News and the moderators of the debate. They did a great job. It was tough at first, but they finally hit their stride about halfway through the debate. Meanwhile, on X, Donald Trump was talking to Tucker Carlson. He skipped the debate stage, and this is an insanely biased report by the Associated Press. I'm so disappointed in where that news organization has gone. When the mainstream media cashed in their journalistic ethics, their rules of operation, their editorial policies of providing fact to the American people, the entire news media changed. It was very much like the sensationalist yellow press days that all of us learned about in school. They don't teach it now, but it did indeed happen. This is going to be an era of journalism that is looked back with shame, assuming that it gets changed. In this particular report, the Associated Press is nothing more than the Associated Propaganda. And just listen to what they say in their report. Donald Trump skipped the debate stage, typically relished by presidential candidates, and instead appeared in an online interview peppered with his election lies, attacks on his rivals, and lavish praise for the crowd of supporters he spoke to before they stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Trump, who has repeatedly brushed aside democratic norms and embraced the inflammatory throughout his political career, said he was sitting out the first Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee because his poll numbers showed him far ahead of his rivals. Instead, he used a pre-recorded interview with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson to make his case that everyone but him is irrelevant. Yeah, like I said, this is a horribly biased report. In the most inflammatory exchange, Trump seemed to indulge a suggestion from Carlson that Trump's political opponents might try to end his life. This was an important part of the interview. Tucker Carlson rightly pointed out that first there was the Mueller investigation, then there were impeachments, now there are indictments. Tucker Carlson said, "What's next? Will your political opponents try to end your life?" Donald Trump was thoughtful about that and answered very, very well, and said this, not with the typical hyperbole that Donald Trump is known for. Here's what he said, quote, "They are savage animals. They are people that are sick, really sick. You have great people in the Democrat Party. You have great people who are Democrats, but I've seen what they do. I've seen the lengths they go to." Then AP returns to the propaganda role that is chosen for itself. The incendiary comment comes as Trump has venerated those charged with crimes for the deadly riot at the U.S. Capitol, downplayed the violence that day. He repeated his praise in the interview. By the way, a little refinement on that. The deadly aspect of their reporting on that involved Ashley Babbitt, who was shot in the face by a federal agent. We have not seen the results of the internal affairs investigation into that shooting, but I continue to ask, what was the deadly force imperative that cost that woman her life? A former U.S. Air Force veteran. Actually, she was an Air Force veteran, but she was a former member of the United States Air Force. Anyway, that being said, the report continues. People in the crowd, this is a quote from President Trump, people in the crowd said it was the most beautiful day they've ever experienced. There was love in that crowd. There was love and unity. Trump said of supporters that he addressed on the morning of January 6th before they marched to the Capitol, quote, "I've never seen such spirit and such passion and such love. And I've also never seen simultaneously and from the same people such hatred of what they've done to our country." What they leave out of that, what the AP report leaves out of that, is the circumstance whereby Donald Trump said there were a few people in that crowd, a relatively small number, who incited others to making the mistakes that landed them in jail. Were those hooligans, shall we say, clearly against the very aspects of everything that Donald Trump saw in that crowd? Yes. Yes, they were. Donald Trump said peacefully and patriotically time and time again. It got so bad that the mainstream media, through the auspices of ABC News, said that what they needed to do, what they actually did was edit the point where we are going to walk down to the Capitol. Then they edited to a point in the last part of the speech where President Trump said, and we're going to fight like hell. So the overall statement was, we're going to go down to the Capitol and fight like hell. It was the dirtiest edit. It was the most biased propagandist edit I've ever seen in national news. ABC News cashing in their ethical, journalistic standards of practice for the sake of politics. It was scurrilous. It was appalling. It was awful. The night before the interview was published, Trump spoke at a fundraiser hosted at his New Jersey golf club for the Patriot Freedom Project, which supports defendants charged for their roles in the insurrection. The interview with Carlson was posted Wednesday night, last night on X, the website formerly known as Twitter, AP points out, 5 minutes before the debate aired. Here is a small piece of that interview last night with Tucker Carlson and the former president of the United States, as Tucker Carlson did something that I'm going to talk about in just a couple of moments that I think you need to be aware of. Here's the report that we have.
Why aren't you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been asking me that, and many people said you shouldn't do them, but you see the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And, you know, some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that? And a network that isn't particularly friendly to me, frankly. You know, they were backing Ron DeSanctimonious like crazy, and now they've given up on him. I mean, it's a lost cause. It reminded me very much of 2016. You know, in 2016, I went through the same stuff and had to fight them all the way. And then they became very friendly after I won, or just about when I was winning. But I just felt it would be more appropriate not to do the debate. I don't think it's right to do it. If you're leading by 50, 60, I have one problem leading by 70 points. And I'm saying, why am I doing it? And I'm going to have 8 people, 10 people, whoever made the debate. I don't know how many it is, but I'm going to have all these people screaming at me, shouting questions at me, all of which I love answering, I love doing, but it doesn't make sense to do them. So I've taken a pass, as you probably noticed.
Well, I did. I'm grateful that you did. It's interesting, though, because you spent a lot of your career in television.
Yeah.
You had a top show in television on NBC. But you don't feel the need now running for president to do television, obviously. Do you think television is declining?
Well, according to a poll that I guess we just saw, it just came out where it's down like 30, 35%. But I think they were referring to cable. I think cable's down because it's lost credibility. MSNBC, or as they say, MSDNC, is so bad. It's so wrong what they write and what they do and what they say. It's, you know, it's fake news, as I said. I think I came up with that term. I hope I did, because it's a good one. It's not tough enough anymore. It's corrupt news. You know, really what you do is call it corrupt news, but somehow that doesn't play as nicely, but it is corrupt news. So you have MSNBC and you have CNN, who's absolutely doing no ratings at all. I mean, they're dead, but they're doing none because they don't have credibility. They really don't have credibility. Fox is way down, as you know.
Yeah. And so the president here, and let me point out a couple of things about this interview that I want you to know. One, Tucker Carlson was much more deferential to Donald Trump than he was with other GOP candidates. I mean, excoriating Mike Pence. He was much more, shall we say, respectful, laid back even. And when it comes to that, the president of the United States, the former president, came across in this interview in a way that I believe is essential to his success, his possible success moving forward. He was presidential. He was thoughtful. He was not lured into making overly embellished, crazy statements. He spoke factually. He did not descend into sarcasm. He was very much someone who looked like a president. I've said this time and time again. President Trump, if he wants to be the next president of the United States, is going to have to start acting like one. And he did in this interview. I was surprised. I was surprised that Tucker Carlson did not show the same edges as he showed the other Republican candidates in the interviews in the run-up to what was a beauty contest in Iowa, where everybody got a chance to talk to Tucker Carlson in front of a crowd of people. And Tucker Carlson was very pointed, very factual, and very good. He was also fair in his very tough questioning, which was not evident here. I was rather hoping, especially after Donald Trump said something about the fact that sparks would fly, I was rather hoping that Tucker Carlson would have taken the same tack, but apparently he decided not to. Maybe he was overwhelmed by the fact that he was interviewing the president of the United States, not something he's done a lot of. And maybe he was, I don't know, maybe showing a couple of cards regarding Trump support. I thought he missed an opportunity there. So for whatever that's worth, CBS News reports the story this way. Former President Donald Trump skipped the first GOP debate Wednesday, opting for an interview with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson. Pre-taped interview was made available on X, the social media platform known as Twitter, 5 minutes before the Wednesday debate began. Fox News made it possible for people to bounce back and forth between the two interviews, both with commercial sets that were overly long, and also with a whole bunch of gingerbread at the beginning of the debate, which I thought was unnecessary. During the debate, the 8 candidates were asked if they would support Trump as the GOP nominee if he was convicted in any of the 4 separate cases against him. 6 of the candidates, including former Vice President Mike Pence, raised their hand. Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie were the only 2 who did not. Trump's interview time and format is a slight, according to CBS News, to Fox News, which is hosting the debate, in addition to the rest of the GOP field. Trump, who once praised Fox News for his coverage, has soured on the conservative news network, according to his social media posts. Fox News canceled Carlson's show in April, days after the company settled a lawsuit on his 2020 election reporting. According to court documents from Dominion Vote Systems' defamation lawsuit, Carlson wrote to members of his staff in early of January 2021, "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately." That was not evident in last night's interview. Trump approached Carlson about the possibility of airing an interview the same night as the debate, according to the former Fox News host. Quote, "Whatever you think of Trump, he is, as of tonight, the indisputable, far and away frontrunner in the Republican race. We think voters have an interest in hearing what he thinks." That was a very good statement. It's also very true. I liked Tucker Carlson's interview, make no mistake, while I was waiting for his edge to appear as he had shown to other Republican candidates. I still believed that Tucker Carlson did a very thoughtful, very good interview, eliciting what President Trump wanted to say. In my way of thinking, that's the way you handle an interview like that. It's simply the way you do it. And so I wanted to make sure that you understood that Tucker Carlson, even though he didn't show the edges that I wish he had shown, at least a few, he did handle an interview with a political leader, regardless of what you think of him, that elicited responses that you and I could consider from that candidate, as opposed to the, pick anybody else who wants to. Sean Hannity leaps to mind, who in an interview spends most of the time talking about what he thinks and what he is and who he is and what he does and is this and that and such and so. That's not the way you handle an interview. You interview a political, especially in an election year, you handle an interview with a candidate in a way to A, solicit from that candidate their policy positions, and then ask questions not to debate with that candidate, but to clarify what the candidate said in your mind in an effort as a journalist to get most of the details. Comment can come later, and that is exactly what Tucker Carlson did. Really proud of him for doing that. But don't be afraid, even if you're dazzled by the fact that you're sitting across from a former president. Don't be so respectful that you forget to ask the really important questions. And once again, Donald Trump did a very good job in that interview appearing presidential, which is something that looks good on him. I certainly hope we get to see more of that. The Wells Report in progress for Thursday, August 24th. thanks very much for being a part of our broadcast. Give us a call, 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. A personal note next. This is the Wells Report.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
This is the Wells Report. Hi. Glad you're here. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. How can you find episode 19 of Tucker Carlson on Twitter? Well, here's what you do. You go to Twitter or X, and in the search, you search Tucker Carlson. Then you look for Tucker Carlson episode number 19. The entire interview shows up there. It's about 48 minutes long. And you can see exactly what I'm talking about. We had a small snippet of it, but you can see how Tucker Carlson does back away from his opportunity to ask very tough questions. And you can also see Donald Trump acting like a president. It's a good interview. Make sure you spend some time with that. There is a team. There is a group of people that come together every single day to bring you this broadcast. When a broadcast like this happens, there are a lot of things that are not just happening on the actual broadcast, but many things behind the scene. In a breaking news situation, you have to, as someone who's sitting before the cameras or a microphone, you have to turn the entire broadcast over to someone who knows exactly how to tell a story. Those people are called executive producers. I've done this broadcast since 9/11/2001, the Wells Report, I mean, every single day. And during that journey, there have been people who have signed aboard this broadcast and brought me their very, very best. The latest in that long line is Dirk Steele. I'm in the Central Time Zone. Dirk Steele lives in Denver, Colorado, which means that when I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, Dirk Steele is getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. In a breaking news event, Dirk Steele would be coming up with all manner of articles and videos and so on and so forth. Last night was, for all intents and purposes, a breaking news event. This morning, I laid before Dirk a request for the videos that you've seen on this broadcast. That was a lot of work that he did. And this broadcast would not be anywhere close to the quality that I'm very proud of in this particular episode of this show without his work. There are other people. Jube Dankworth joined the Wells Report years ago, and she offered her incredible skills as a publicist. You know that I talk about Jube Dankworth, who also brings us news content as an associate producer and publicist. You can find her at netmediaconsultants.com. If you need publicity, by all means, do so. Call her. And then there's yours truly, who tries to put this broadcast together solely to provide a journalistic effort, a real one, an honest and fair one to you, so you have facts to make better decisions. And God knows, these elections that we have require fact and good decision making. Our stewardship of this nation, left to us on this particular topic, has been left wanting. This show is an aim to resolve that. Those three people I just mentioned work for no money. No one has been paid on this broadcast. And that is nobody's fault except our own, except this is in the very early days of what I consider to be a very important broadcast that shows up every day. I believe in this show. I believe in the people who do it. I believe that we will have great success. But right now, we're doing it for free, which brings me to someone else on this team. And that would be my wife, Susan Grzinski Wells. She has a wonderful job. She does amazing work in a discipline having to do with making sure your health care is handled by people who are competent and have incredibly good tools for them to do their job. She is the only salary that comes to this broadcast and this household. Susan floats the boat. These four people, these people that I'm discussing, are working solely to enliven the vision that I bring to this broadcast. I cannot turn away. I will not turn away. And I am more than flattered by the people who sign aboard this broadcast and take a significant amount of their time, change their lives, in fact, to be able to have a piece of this effort. I can't thank them enough. I simply cannot. And I thought you'd like to know, because a show like this is incredibly difficult. I was humbled and shocked today at the outset when I called Dirk after laying all this work before him, and I said, Dirk, I'm sorry to lay this all at your feet, man. And he came back immediately with, JD, you've got a team around you. Yes, I do. And they work for free. What a gift. The executive producer of the Wells Report is Dirk Steele. The associate producer and publicist of this broadcast is Jube Dankworth. The show exists under the generosity of my wife, Susan. I am John David Wells. God bless you. Thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow. And so there we go. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. I'll see you again tomorrow for the Fishing Shirt Friday edition of this broadcast. God bless all.